Hi everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we'll be painting a goldfish and we're starting right now. So I tried to find some reference pictures here that look a little bit like the crankbait that I have right here. And yeah, you got a lot of colors in these weirdly shaped goldfish. They can be gold and white, they can be more white than gold, or they can be almost entirely gold. So yeah, that's a little bit up to you how you want to do it. I'm not gonna keep it to one reference picture. I think I'm gonna do a little bit of a combination of the pictures that I have. Basically the goal is to paint a really cool looking goldfish that looks a little bit realistic but is not too complicated to do. So first of all, if we look at this reference picture, I really like the body on this little goldfish here. I like to have a little bit of white in there as well. So if you look closely to this goldfish, you can see that he's white, but it's not actually white. Because if you look very closely, it's more of a pearlescent white. It's not a flat white. It's a pearlescent, almost a silver. I'm gonna try to not touch the tail at all. You could also, if you want, tape off the tail a little bit with some painter's tape. But I'm lazy, I'm gonna leave it like this. If I make a mistake, then we'll just make a happy little mistake out of it. It's not a big deal like that. So first of all, we're gonna start off with a little bit of white, but not too much, just a little bit, just that tiny base coat, but I still want it to be a little bit of a transparent. And in order to make it go real quick, I'm gonna use Dead White from Vallejo Gamer, and this is because it's ready to use straight out of the bottle. It sprays super easily, super fast, so it's just a quick solution. A little test spray. There we go. Dust it on there a little bit, just like that. Next up, I'm gonna use a little bit of pearl white. Well, actually, we're not gonna use a little bit of pearl white, we're gonna use a lot of pearl white. I'm gonna thin that down just a little bit with 4011. Let's say about 2 drops or something. Shake that pearl white really well. Let's mix that a little bit. I always do back flushes to push up that reducer that's inside of my needle chamber here, to blow that back up so it blends with the paint, so that once you press that button and you pull back your needle, not only reducer is going to come out, but paint mixed with reducer is going to come out. That's very important. That's something that some beginners sometimes miss, so I think it's good to mention that. Always backflash, because there's always the lightest stuff, or the thing that you put in first, which in this case was reducer, always accumulates in the bottom here, in where the needle, I call it the needle chamber. It's where the paint goes and mixes together with the needle here, and it just lays there. So you can mix here as much as you want, but you're not gonna touch that reducer that's down there already. That's why you need to do a backflush, to blow that back up so it mixes as well with your paint. I always do a little test spray so that I know how the consistency is and how the paint reacts with my trigger, so that I got full control over my paint, so that I always know what I'm doing and I don't get any surprises on my lure. Now next up, I'm gonna use a little bit of gold. This is Kratex Pearl Gold. Just 2 drops. I'm gonna dust that on there on the sides. Not too much, just a little bit. Now next up, we're gonna put our orange or a red on there. And for goldfish patterns, I love to use fluorescent colors, especially fluorescent orange, and even more so the red, because the red really gives that goldfish-like color. instead of the orange, I find the orange a little bit too bright, a little bit too light. And that's why I think the fluorescent orange is a little bit too bright, because I perceive a goldfish to be a little bit more warmer in tone, and that's exactly what this fluorescent does. It's a little warmer, and yeah, I just love this color for goldfish patterns. Now there are two things you can do. Either you airbrush these colors on there, or you use a stencil. But as you all know, I really love my paper towels. I can't paint without them. It is just such a simple trick, and it creates such beautiful effects. So we make a ball of a little bit of paper towel. I grab my paint panel kind of thing. It's just a plastic box actually, but yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna start off with the light color first. I always do this. It makes more sense to put a darker color on top of a light one for fishing patterns instead of doing it the other way, because you can make most colors you can make darker but not brighter. Take a drop, and I'm gonna thin that down a little bit so it becomes more subtle. Another great tip is when you paint your lures with UV colors or fluorescent colors, never leave them out in the sun when you're fishing and you're gonna change lures and you just leave it on the boat. Never do that, because fluorescent colors, they degrade really fast. Or even better, the pigments of fluorescent colors, they degrade really fast in sunlight, and they become very dull and boring. Especially when you compare them with a freshly painted fluorescent color, you're gonna see a huge difference. So just never leave them in the sun. And the same for the paint bottles. Never put them where the sun could reach it. Just make sure that your fluorescent colors are always in a dark area. Right, I'm just gonna dip it on there. Always make sure there's not too much paint on there. The reason that I love to do this with a paper towel is because it creates so much texture. It is never even, it's never the same, and that just looks so natural. I'm gonna try not to touch the gill plates too much. Maybe I touched them a little bit there, but okay. We can make it even like that. Let this dry for a second. You can put some more on there if you want to. If you feel like, it's... Now you see that is way too much paint to my liking, so I dip it off and then I take away that paint with my towel again. Now I don't worry too much when I hit the tail. If I do, that is not a big issue, especially not with the orange, because we're gonna make that tail orange for most of it anyways. Now we're gonna do the same thing but with fluorescent red, which is the little bit of darker. One drop goes a long way. One drop of thinner. I can use the same mixing stick here, that is not a problem if I mix in a little bit of that lighter fluorescent orange. Now this next step is up to yourself, but I'm liking a little bit of gold here and there, so I'm gonna spray a little bit of gold over there again, and for this I'm gonna use one of the shifters, which is the gold yellow to burnt orange, which is a really nice little bit of a brighter gold than the pearlescent gold, also finer pigments. We're just gonna dust a little bit on there again. And if it would be too much gold, no problem, then we just dip on a little bit of our two orange colors on there again, and then we cover up there a little bit of a gold again. And that's how you can work in layers and create that exactly goldfish pattern that you are looking for. Now if I look at this reference picture again, then I feel like I lost that white a little bit. The contrast is gone between the white and the orange. So in order to bring that back but not losing the pearlescent effect, I'm because I also could use Vallejo Dead White and just paint a little bit of white on there again and then go over that with pearl white. I'm gonna try to make one step out of two steps, if you know what I mean. So that's why I'm gonna try to just save that contrast with metallic white cores, and I'm gonna paint some of that on there because the metallic white cores has quite good coverage and looks quite white as well, and hopefully that is gonna create that contrast that I'm looking for, and as well gonna give me that pearlescent look that I'm looking for. And as you can see, I'm not really careful with it, I'm just really stippling it on there, and that is again to create that natural effect, that unbalanced color application, if you will. Because the more we do balanced or symmetrical, the more unnatural things look. Not even one color in nature is symmetrical or balanced or exactly right. It's always a combination of different colors together, and also depending on the light and the angle of the light or the reflection. It all depends on what you're looking at, of course. If it's fish scales or feathers, or even some insects have really interesting iridescent effects or even color changing features on their scales. Really beautiful things sometimes. But that's a different subject. Right now we're painting fishes. The good thing about this metallic white course is that it actually really cores glitter pigments in there with a transparent base. So that means whatever I put on there, if I only put one layer on there, it is still transparent. You can see what's underneath there, and it looks more subtle. That's what I'm trying to say. I still don't find it white enough, so I'm gonna try to use some Createx Pearl White on there too. It's just that I'm looking for a quite pearlescent white, because the contrast on my reference picture is really big between the white and the orange. The contrast is a little bit higher. The white is pushed to the foreground again instead of being in the background. The gold is still visible underneath that orange, so we get a really goldfish looking kind of texture on there. Now for the tail, I want to use this reference picture and maybe leaving even a little bit more white, but I really like the tail on this goldfish. So to start off, again, we're gonna need a little bit of a white, but not too much. It needs to be kind of transparent, just like the fin is still a little bit transparent. So for that, I'm gonna use my Game Air Dead White, but I'm also gonna put in a little bit of Airbrush Flow Improver, and this is gonna be my transparent base. Actually, it's gonna make my white a little bit more transparent, that's all. Alright, and here again the same, we're gonna work our way from light to darker. And if you zoom in on the tail, you can see that it actually starts out with white at the tips of the tail, and then it becomes more yellow instead of orange. So for this I'm gonna use Sun Yellow from Vallejo, which is exactly that kind of yellowish color. And I'm not gonna airbrush it on there because it's a different kind of texture. If I airbrush it on there, it's gonna be too even. So I'm gonna try and smear it on there, some kinda. It's gonna be an experiment for myself as well. This is a really old color, I haven't used this in a very long time. Talking about a very long time, the last time I painted a lure was my last video, which is about 8 months ago. So it's been a long time since I painted a lure, and I'm really happy I can finally find the time to paint a lure again, because it's been a while. Right, so I'm gonna smear that on there using my paper towel again, because I want that uneven effect. Now I'm gonna do the same with a fluorescent orange again. Not the red, but the orange first, lighter version first. We're gonna work our way to the back. First we didn't cover all of the white, now we're not gonna cover all of the yellow. And now we're gonna darken that base of the tail with a little bit of fluorescent red. Also reduced, say with 3 drops and 1 drop of paint. Just dust it on there, only on the base of the tail. Right, now there are 2 things you can do here. There you can see that the tail has a really high contrast compared to the body, and that is because we dulled down that fluorescent orange and red with our Vallejo shifter gold. Now we could do the same on the base of the tail to tone that down, and that is up to you. Because I really like the contrast, it creates kind of a striking point for a predator fish, just because that fluorescent is so high in contrast compared to the body of the fish. So I'm gonna leave it this way, but if you want to make it one unit, you want to make the tail look the same as the body, then you just dust on a little bit of pearl gold or Vallejo shifters gold on the base of that tail, and then that's gonna get about the same color as the body, and you're gonna get the same. But I really like the high contrast, so I'm gonna leave it like this. I think it's gonna be what some fishermen believe to be a striking point, so that's gonna be nice. Then it's time to put the eyes in. I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on there, and I'm gonna use the eyes that come with the blank because I really like these ones. These are the perfect color. They have a really big pupil and then a little bit of a yellow edge around it, but that's just perfect. That big pupil. Ready for a clip coat. Like a goldfish. I'm really happy with the result, but overall it's a cool looking lure. Yeah, I like it. As always, I will leave a link in the description down below for all the materials that I used to paint this lure. This will guide you to my webshop, which is based in Sweden, and if you would buy anything there, you will be supporting me and the channel. Thank you for watching, have a nice day, and see you next time. Bye bye.